Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matra Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Lakshmi Rupena Sanstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. So Mark, can you remember for us where we are in the text?
We're on number 89, page 283.
In the 16th
chapter.
16th chapter, yes. Okay. So if I remember, we had two technical terms introduced: prakasha, luminosity, and vimarsha, deliberation or thinking about stuff. And we had this idea of what is nirvikalpa samadhi. And here the Tattriya has made it very simple. Any time the mind is free from the vimarsha, from the deliberation, that's samadhi. And then we were introduced to the idea of fleeting or momentary samadhis. Am I doing this right? This is what we covered last week, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, I thought so. Okay. So these fleeting or momentary samadhis, in fact, ordinary people experience them all the time, but they serve no value to free them. And the reason being, The mind's attentive faculty is directed outward. The mind stops for a moment. We can call it spacing out or whatever you want. And when the mind returns, you're still extroverted, facing outward. So you space out. Someone says, what did you say to me? You know, you're just gone for a moment. You aren't really thinking, you're gone. But because your attention is extroverted, it serves no value. But if you have developed the habit to introvert the mind's attentive faculty, I call it the radical reversal of the attentive faculty. When the mind disappears, even for these moments, these little flashes, when the mind comes back, it says, oh, there's nobody there. Then for the yogi who's familiar with samadhi, life can be replete with it. All right. Tell us again what number. Ganesh, I think you're our chanter. Would you be closer to the mic if you moved over a bit? What do you think?
I think I should be okay.
Okay. You need more light?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Going on, please.
Chapter 6.
What page are we, Mark?
283, page
Page 283.
number 89.
89.
Number 89. He was in samadhi, he wasn't paying attention.
Darshanam jagrati bhavet vimarshana rupakam tathapi te pravakshyami muniputra darachruno. There can be perception in the waking state, which has the nature of absence of deliberation or absence of thought constructs. Son of the sage, still I should tell you the subtle distinction. Hear with attention.
So we had also talked about how just removing perception of the external world for moments isn't enough. The mind is still covered by ignorance. That's basically these moments of laya when you're asleep, basically. Unconsciousness. And so now he's going to talk about these moments of the mind free from vimarsha, deliberation, in the waking state. Going on.
Avyaktam yat tathamajam nasti samanyakam hitat nasti kyevahi tadbhavan nasti kyevahi tadbhanam atyanta bhavarupakam. That unmanifest which is born first is indeed not common. Its appearance merely as is not is indeed of the nature of absolute non-existence. Note, the difference between sleep and samadhi is being brought out in the following verses.
So again, what's the difference between sleep and samadhi? In deep sleep, the world and the mind are folded up into their seed form. This is called sushupta, deep sleep. It's called the Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss sheath. It's called the Avyakta. It's called my bundle of vasanas. So the experience is I know nothing. But I don't think I know nothing, because that would be a thought. Only after the mind returns, meaning you wake up. Oh, I must have slept soundly. I can't remember a thing. I get this experience. I'll awaken in the middle of the night and I'll have no idea what time it is. So I have a talking alarm clock. So the time is 2:43 a.m. Oh, I've been asleep for 3 hours, didn't even know it. In samadhi, though, not only is the world and the vimarsha gone, but the ignorance is gone too. So the best way I know to explain it, so this hand is like the self, always there, always shining, illuminating the mind, this hand, waking state, dream state, folded up in deep sleep. Watch carefully, samadhi. Then when you return from samadhi, the mind goes, oh, there was nothing there, yet I was fully aware. There's no person. The world disappeared, but I did not. Marvelous is that. You see my talking fingers here. This after the fact recognition, recollection. The word I like is pratya vijnanam, recognition. It's the aha that happens in the mind. Going on.
Esha sushuptirityukta chadashaktirbhavetchitah darshane bhasamanam cha नास्त्याभासपदं यतः अतः सुषुप्तिरेव स्यात् जडदर्शनसङ्गता. This is called sleep and is the power of inertness of consciousness. Since what appears in the perception of sleep has now as its subject non-existence or appearance as is not, therefore sleep can only be associated with the perception of inertness or insensibility and cannot be samadhi.
Yes, it is tamas, pure tamas. Now, listen very carefully. There are people who have taken up a meditative practice and get stuck for decades. Oh, Jim, I've been meditating for 20 years. I think I go into samadhi. I just go away. I put on some music, I roll a joint. I'm gone. No, it's not meditation. That's manolaya. That's yoga nidra, sleep. Will do nothing to free us. If you're a tense, anxious person, it can have value in that it may be a time to relax you. But the mind at meditation is silent, but vigilant and alert. Think of a cat stalking like a moth or a bird. It's incredibly still, intensely focused attention for its springs. That's the mind of meditation. It's not unconscious, it's super conscious. We call it manonasha, the destruction of the mind. It doesn't mean enfeebling the mind. Absolute quiescence of mind when the faulting of inertia has. We have so many statements in the literature which point to it. One of my favorites in Gita, in the 2nd chapter. He who knows it not. Oh, yes, Jim. I can quote Gita chapter and verse. I've memorized the 12th chapter. Yes, I know all these shlokas. I could even say them backwards. Well, Shankara says this. Ramnath says that. He who knows it not. That's an indirect knowledge. She who knows it not knows it. Meaning the person has developed the trick to unknow.
Sorry.
We were getting celestial sounds from Ganesh's form. All right, going on.
Sushupti kshanika tadvat samadhirapi vidyate sushuptir lakshyate sukshma tribhi parichayat khalu samadhistva parichaya sukshmo nahi vimrishyate. Momentary sleep, and like that, momentary samadhi also occurs. Such sleep is surely observed by those having subtle perception on account of frequent repetition. But samadhi, which is subtle, is surely not reflected on due to. I thought we've already done this one.
Yeah.
Are we repeating verses we did last week?
No, maybe okay. Sorry, that's me. Samadho bhasamanaya chitisa brahma rupini bhakshini kaladeshana nastya bhasa vinashini sarvatha stimayi devi sushupti sa katham bhavet. That consciousness which shines in samadhi is in essence Brahman, or the ultimate reality, is a devourer of space, time and space, and the destroyer of the appearance of is not. How can that goddess, who entirely consists of is, or pure existence, be sleep, which is of the nature of inertness?
Yes. So here, Brahman and Devi, the goddess, Tripuri, they are the same. They're just different names for the infinite. How can ultimate reality be the darkness of deep sleep? You are Sat Chit Ananda. You are, you exist. Chit, you shine as the light of pure awareness. Ananda, bliss absolute. You are the fountainhead of all joy. We could also say no sorrow reaches there. Now, many people get caught in the trap of chasing nirvikalpa samadhi. They have an imagination of what it is. Oh, I'm going to keep trying to get to nirvikalpa. I'm going to keep trying to get to nirvikalpa. Have I had it yet? Have I not had it yet? My suggestion, don't worry about it so much. Practice tuning up the mind. This intense introversion. Not letting the mind extrovert into the senses. And be more concerned with, do I know who I am? Because the point of samadhi is to reveal your self-nature. Anytime the mind flashes within and you get the sense, oh, there's nothing there. Technically speaking, those are samadhis. They don't need to last hours. Now, for some reason, the mind will not totally let go of the ego sense until the mind has come to a thunderous stop. Then all doubt is vanquished. From then on, discrimination is no longer needed as a practice. It's obvious. It's myself. It's the clearest thing in the world. Why can't I seem to go into samadhi, attachment, and identification? That's always. Now, I had a conversation with a student, and they've been coming around about 5-6 years. They're currently traveling, and they've been reading some tantric texts, and they just broke up an unfortunate love affair, and they were really devastated. And they were saying that their understanding of Tantra, she said that, well, isn't it so you can have your cake and eat it too? Isn't that what Tantra is? You can enjoy the world and have knowledge of the self. Now listen very carefully here. The world isn't real. It's all Brahman. So you either see that the world is real or you don't. So if you think you can hang on to the reality of the world and know yourself, no. That's like the person who is walking along the beach and they look down and they see a silver coin and they say, I wonder if it's a rare coin and I can sell it. And then with the millions of dollars of this rare coin, I'll be rich and build houses and have cars. They reach down and know it's a piece of shell. Say, yeah, but I'm gonna buy houses and have cars with the coin. No, there's no coin there. It's a piece of shell. So what about going into the world and practicing in the way that Tantra invites us? I tell you, listen carefully, Tantra is the more painful path. Because what do you learn at the end of it all? It's all temporary. It's always going to break your heart. There's nothing substantial, but we learn it in the world of hard knocks. Swamiji would say, go after the world. Let it kick you in the teeth. Let it drop you again and again. It's the only way to kill the ego. That's Tantra. Jnana Yoga says, I'm going to be a little more intelligent about it. It's the most direct way, but it takes intense subtlety to see the fundamental unreality of the world. The precondition for steady wisdom is vairagya. Don't care how you get there. You get it through the world of hard knocks, you get it through insight. Doesn't matter. You either see the rope or you're still smooching that snake. You're either trying to quench your thirst with the mirage waters or you know it's sand. You either see it. Any thoughts on this? All right,
Jim,
one. Oh yes, please go ahead. Uday.
I was just curious if in the same language and the same context, if you could illustrate what Bhakti Yoga would be.
You love God till you disappear. You love God to the point where you don't care about the world. Why should I worry about where I am, where I live, what I wear? God alone is all that's important to me. Isn't that what a bhakta does?
Right.
All of these paths accomplish the same thing. They deal with three questions. Who am I? What is the world? How has it come about? All of them, all of the paths end in the dissolution of the personal sense of self, the dissolution of our belief in the substantial nature of the world as something other, separate, with joy-giving or misery-producing qualities. In Yoga Vasishta, one of the things they say, there are three states the ego can adopt. Two are conducive to liberation, one is conducive to bondage. The first one is, I do nothing. I am ever the uninvolved, unattached witness. I just watch it all. The second one is, I do everything. The self in me is the self everywhere and is the only agent doing anything. Both of those are conducive to liberation. The third, which is conducive to bondage, is I do this action and I don't do that one. Jiva Bhava, personal sense of self. All right, going on.
Tasmat sushupti matrena bhavedhi kritarthata bodhayamasa janaka ityashtavakra muktibihi. Therefore, there cannot indeed be the accomplishment of one's object, a mere sleep. Thus, Janaka taught Ashtavakra through his statements.
Yes. So again, we've done this. This is the story of the enlightenment of Ashtavakra. And he says, you cannot reach the ultimate through unconsciousness. Now, let's talk about the dynamic of the three gunas, because this helps us understand. Tamas, Rajas, Sattva. Tamas, indolence, unconsciousness, confusion, Rajas, activity, projecting power. Sattva, non-activity, clarity, knowledge of the truth. Now, suffering occurs in the Rajasic state. Nobody suffers in deep sleep. That's pure tamas. That's why we love it. So if we are suffering, ego will frequently say, I need to fix this by getting away from the feeling. So what do? I eat at it, I drink at it, I smoke dope at it, I watch Netflix at it, I look at porn at it, I do whatever I do to go unconscious, to move the mind from rajas into tamas. That's why people love heroin. How do you feel on heroin? I don't. That's what makes it so good. Shuts everything off. The problem is, tamas is temporary. You wake up, you come down from the drug. You run out of money at the casino. Whatever it is that you've done to move the mind from rajas into tamas, it ends. And then the suffering comes back. Usually then redoubled because you have not processed the feeling. So the yogi does not self-soothe. Meditation is not about self-soothing. Meditation is about being woke AF. I will frequently say, just don't do something, sit there. Shake, rattle, and roll. Completely experience the feelings, the traumas, the triggers, the hridaya granthi, the knots of the heart as they come up. And then in the light of awareness, they dissolve. The mind moves from rajas to sattva. All right, next verse.
सप्तदशोऽध्यायः श्रुत्वैवं जनकेनोक्तम् अष्टावक्रः पुनर्नृपं पप्रच्छ यत्तदद्वामी शृणु भार्गव यत्नतः. Thus, having heard what was told by Janaka, Ashtavakra asked the king again, Bhargava, hear what I say with care.
Okay, going on. More questions.
Rajan yaduktam bhavata yavaharadashasvapi sukshma samadhayas santi kyevam sukshma samadhayas santa ityevam tanmevadasputam. King, tell me clearly what was told by you, that even under conditions of work, subtle samadhis occur.
So how is it that one can be active in the world and be in samadhi? Do I need to withdraw from the world? We have all these stories about such and such a sage was deep in nirvikalpa for 12 years and nobody bothered him, stuff like that. So the next topic under discussion is what we call Sahaja Samadhi. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is not the highest state. It reveals the highest truth. But Sahaja Samadhi, Sahaja here means natural or continuous, is when I function in the world and I never forget who I am, nor do I take the world seriously. Going on.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes.
Just taking a step back, you mentioned that we suffer in the state of rajas. And you also said that the state of suffering is born from the feeling of jiva bhavana. But isn't it the case that even in the state of sattva, there is jiva bhavana? So that is also a state of suffering.
Good point. That's subtle here. If it is what we call mixed sattva, meaning the sattva is tinged with some rajas and tamas, then you'll have jiva bhavana. But in the state of pure sattva, there is no jiva bhavana.
I see. Okay.
But we don't move from these states like I am now in tamas. Boom, no, I'm in rajas. It's a gradation.
Right,
It's
right.
a gradation.
Okay, got it.
Excellent question. All right, and this is not just Jim's opinion. This is clearly explicated in Viveka Chudamani. Excellent question. All right, going on.
Dashasu kasute santi nirvikalpa chidatmakaha evam tenanuyuktotha praharaja mahashayah. Under what conditions do they, of the nature of pure consciousness, the thought constructs occur? Thus asked by him, the noble-minded king said then.
So he's saying, if you are rooted in knowledge, what kind of thoughts do you have? Or do you? Are you sitting in the corner drooling in your diaper? What's it like? Going on.
Shrunu Brahman Pravakshyami. Shrunu Brahman Pravakshyami. व्यवहारे समाधयः प्रियया सम्परिष्पक्तो नव्यया प्रथमं यदा तदा न वेद बाह्यं वा अभ्यान्तरं वा क्षणं नरः तिष्ठेन्न निद्रया क्रान्तः स समाधिरुदीरितः. Brahmana, listen, I shall tell you about samadhis during work. When a man is embraced for the first time by his new and beloved wife, then does he know for a moment either the external or the internal? He may not also be overcome by sleep or insensibility. That is called samadhi. Note, the external refers to place, time, direction, and the like. The internal refers to the mental modifications like happiness and sorrow.
So he's kind of euphemistically saying, when you have samadhi and you know your self-nature, you will know beyond the doubt. I say it's like trying to explain an orgasm to a 7-year-old. I've read it in the books. Isn't it kind of weird? I mean, why would anybody want to do that? Then when the person goes through puberty and all of a sudden the body awakens, whether you've read any books or not, that's what he's talking about here. And just like when you're embraced by your wife for the first time, it's your wedding night. All your attention is on that. Same thing. It's another one of these R-rated comparisons, which I find very funny in this text. Going on.
यच्चिराद्वाञ्छितं किञ्चित् लभ्यत्वेन निश्चितम्. यच्चिराद्वाञ्छित किञ्चित् अलभ्यत्वेन निश्चितम्. अकस्मात् तस्य सम्प्राप्तिः यदा भवति वै मुने तदा न वेदे बाह्यं वा अभ्यान्तरं वा क्षणं नरः तिष्ठेन्न निद्रया क्रान्तः स समाधिरुदीरितः. Sage, when there's the acquisition suddenly of something which was desired for a long time and ascertained as not attainable, then a man does not know for a moment either the external or the internal. He may not also be overcome by sleep or insensibility. That is called samadhi.
So, ordinary people will have moments of samadhi at the great satisfaction of a desire. When the mind stops. Where I notice it in the world so frequently is at a concert. 2 weeks ago, I went to hear the great German tenor, Jonas Kaufmann. Just exquisite singing. And he instructed us not to applaud after the songs. Wonderful instruction. Wait until you finish the whole set, then you can applaud the whole half. So he would sing these incredibly beautiful things, and then he would finish. You could just feel the thunderous silence in the room. He put us in samadhi. Great artists do it all the time. They may not call it that, but it stops the mind. once you've had a taste of this in your own meditation, when you've become familiar, find it in the world, you find it in your meditation scene. Mind goes out, a little bit of agitation, mind comes home. Next verse.
Atarkitam prujan papi nirbhayo hृष्टमानसः akasmat kati sampashyet vyaghradhi mrityu sammitam tadana vede bahyam va apyantaram va kshanam narah tishthenna nidraya krantah sasamadhirudiritah. If a man, unexpectedly walking somewhere, fearless and with a happy mind, should suddenly see a tiger or the like equal to death itself, then he does not know for a moment either the external or the internal. He may not also be overcome by sleep or insensibility. That is called samadhi.
Modern day, you were out having a few drinks with some friends, and you're on your way home, and you're coming across the Bay Bridge. The next thing you see is a police car right behind. Hands at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. You are so focused and attentive. Now, let's go through exactly what we're talking about here. We've used the stone here many times to talk about what I call the pleasure principle. First thing that happens is I determine what objects are dear to me, priya. Then I get proximate to the object of knowledge, moda. I create it, I buy it, etc. Then when desire and object of desire become one, the point of pleasure, pramoda. If the person's mind is in ignorance, we call that also the Anandamaya kosha, the bliss sheath. Then what happens? I want more widgets. But the same dynamic for the yogi. A desire arises in the bosom. She can say, no widgets around. Oh, widgets today. Priya, moda, desire and object desire. Wow, that sure stopped my mind. Whoosh, whoosh. Then we have a mediated experience of the bliss of myself. And if I also have easily available the non-mediated experience of the bliss of myself, the world can no longer bind us. At earlier stages of our practice, we make a distinction. You must give up your attachment to worldly pleasures and instead turn your attention to realizing your self-nature. Absolutely essential. But where we are now in this text, we get a deeper and more subtle truth. Guess what? There's no such thing as worldly pleasure. It doesn't exist. The world is incapable of giving us pleasure. What happens is mind extroverts a bit into the object. When I get the object, I get a taste of myself. If it's ice cream, if it's beautiful music, if it's a rise in the stock market, if it's love making, all of it, all it does is stop my mind. Meaning that the marshal has ended. I literally see the self in and through every experience. With no attachment. Because I never think I'm dependent on this, that, or the other thing. The only thing they can ever deliver me, the mind coming home. Next verse.
Atipriyam Kaputradi Vibhum cha Grihakarmani Aroginam Yada Kasmat Samshrunoti Nutam Kila Tadana Veda Bhakyam Vapya Antaram Vakshanam Naraha Tishthenna Nidraya Krantaha Sasamadhirudiritaha. When a man suddenly hears that his son or the like extremely dear to him, capable in a household duty and having no illness, is verily dead, then he does not know for a moment either the external or the internal.
So, I'm sorry.
He may not also be overcome by sleep or insensibility. That is called samadhi. Note, in the examples given in verses 4 to 11, the mind deprived of deliberation or thought constructs on the sudden occurrence of very great rapture, satisfaction, fear, or sorrow becomes established in its own natural state at the beginning of such experiences momentarily. This is momentary samadhi.
Yes. Yes. But for the ordinary person, does not serve to free them in any way. Going on.
Athan yathapi vakshyami samadhe sambhavam shruno jagrat swapna sushuptinam madhye santi samadhayah. Likewise, I shall tell you of the occurrence of samadhi otherwise also. Listen, there are samadhis in the intervals between waking, dreaming, and sleep. Note, the momentary state, free from thought constructs at the end of the waking state and before sleep, as also the one at the end of sleep and just before waking, can be experienced by all through careful attention to those intervals. It may not be possible to do so in the intervals before or after dreaming, since one does not have any control on dreaming to enable him to direct his attention to such intervals.
So there's a state called Vasanananda. I call it snooze alarm bliss. When you wake up in the morning, what he's talking about when your eyes first open, before the mind starts thoughting, that's technically samadhi. But when the mind starts just a little bit and there's just enough vimarsha, not to get involved in the world, but to go, oh, just another 10 minutes. Poke the pillow. Oh, I just want to enjoy this. And I stay right on the edge of sleep because it feels so good. And then the alarm goes off 10 minutes later. Oh, I have to get up, go to work, clean the house, deal with this problem, that project, etc. And then that bliss. Next verse.
दूरे किंचित पश्यतस्तु बुद्ध्या चैकाग्रया मुने मनो दीर्घात्मतां याति चलुकेव तृणालिषु देहे देह भासमयं भावे भावात्मकं तथा मध्ये तन्निर्विकल्पाख्यं मनोलक्षय sarvada. Sage, for one seeing something at a distance with one pointed mind, the mind becomes prolonged or extended in speech like a leech in rows of grass. It consists of the appearance of the body in the body, and likewise it is of the nature of the object in the object. In the middle, perceive that mind called nirvikalpa, or without thought constructs, always. Note, the mind takes the form of the object on which it fixes its attention. When we are aware of our body, it takes the form of the body. When we see a distant object, say the moon, it takes the form of the orb of the moon. The flitting of the mind from object to object is compared to the movement of a leech on rows of grass. It takes hold of the blade of grass in front by extending its body and then leaves its hold on the previous one. Like that, the mind extends itself from the body to grasp the moon and then leaves its hold on the body. In the intermediate stage, it does not grasp anything and is free from thought constructs. Yes. Attention to this interval results in samadhi.
Yes. So when you see something directly, before the mind starts thinking about what it is, all these little places he's going to talk about where, if we're attentive, we can notice the mind free. Next one.
Bahuna kimihoktena shrunusukshma vimarshana vyavaharena kasyapi jnanam ekam tu bhasate khanda jnanam samuhatma vyavaharo yamatatah ata eva parnayanti tairthika sarva eva hi atmanam buddhamapi va shanabheda vibheditam tadantarakshanaugheshu nirvikalpadasha sthita. What is the use of many words in this matter? You having subtle reasoning, listen. During work, knowledge does not shine as one and the same for anybody. This work or worldly activity is spread with the nature of a multitude of broken perceptions. For this very reason, quite all the ascetics who propound philosophical doctrines describe the self or the intellect as one separated by different momentary cognitions. In the stream of such moments within it, the state free from thought constructs exists. Note, according to the Buddhists, self is only a series of momentary cognitions. Kannada author of Vaisheshika philosophy considers such a series of momentary cognitions as the dharma or the characteristic property of the self, called buddhi or intellect. In either case, the nirvikalpa state exists in the intervals between such momentary cognitions.
Yes. So, what's the point here? The point here is pure awareness, myself, is always present. Whenever we teach nirvikalpa, whenever I teach it, I always use two definitions, both of which are found in scripture. In this part of the scripture, we're talking about the mind state of no thought. But the technical definition of nirvikalpa is when the distinction between knower, knowing, and known is merged. One can also look at it this way. Nirvikalpa is another name for the self. How do you know you are you? You are the knower. What's the pramana, the means of knowledge, the self itself? What is that which is known? Not as an object, yet absolutely known, myself. So from this definition, I'm always in nirvikalpa. Aham nirvikalpa, I am nirvikalpa. And if this phenomenal world just appears as like a dream, like a hologram, like a virtual reality, it's not even really there in the first place. So that substratum, that nirvikalpa, is always there. Once you've become familiar with the no-thingness of yourself, then we want to begin to start giving up this idea of mind control. You ever not you? It's the most simple awareness of the most ordinary waking state. Now, the Buddhists say awareness arises when the object is perceived. They're mutually arising, mutually dependent. I don't know what the Buddhists teach when no perception of thought or the world happens, because awareness does not disappear. Don't believe me. Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. Well, quit thinking and see if you disappear. You are Nityananda, eternal. Chidananda, bliss consciousness. All right, next verse.
Kahola majajanihi Janatantu pratikshanam samadhirasti chanyasya samadhi kashashringavat. Son of Kahola, know this. For those knowing or familiar with the nature of samadhi, samadhi exists at every moment, and for another, samadhi is like a hare's horn. That is an utter impossibility.
So for the person who understands what it is, the stopping of the vimarsha, the deliberation of the mind, it's everywhere. It's all the time, whenever you want it. If you have romantic ideas about what you think samadhi ought to be, then you will chase it for it. Like I say, don't crave nirvikalpa. That in itself becomes another trap. Keep it simple. You know who you are. Don't try to be an enlightened person. Be Brahman. Know you are Brahman. And continue to revel in the self. All right, we'll stop here. What verse are we on now?
We are on 19 and 20. We'll do that next week.
19 and 20 next week. Did we start a new chapter?
Yeah, chapter
Yes.
17.
Oh, see, okay. So we're chapter 17, verses 19 and 20. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om. Thank you all. This
Thanks,
is
Jim.
incredibly
Thank you.
subtle teaching. If it seemed, oh my God, what the heck is he talking about? Just put it on the shelf. Put it on the shelf.
Thank you.
Who's that?
Catherine.
Catherine. How did you do with it tonight?
I was, very confused. I wanted to know how to spell samadhi because I could look it up on my own because I have a million questions and I can't ask every single question that I have.
Call me up. Do you have my phone number?
Yeah, I do. 510 area code.
Yeah. Samadhi is SAMADHI.